Welcome to A Plan for That podcast, where each week co-hosts Erin and Ryan will meet with progressive organizers, activists, and leaders. Together, we will educate, invigorate, and elevate the progressive movement. When we unite our voices, an army of progressives is possible. So, Ryan, I know that we wanted to do a revisit of our fabulous guest from One Paycheck Away. And I do want to do that. But given the news that literally just broke, I want to get your take after I tell you mine on the Democrats now looking to cut funds for people that are earning $50,000 or more. My take, that's going to screw me and my family. I'm unemployed. My husband earns $100 and we have no more savings. It's all gone. All of it. So how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to screw my wife and I that much. We both make under 50. We're just starting our careers, so it's not like it's a huge factor for us. But obviously, we're not the only ones that are affected by this. So, we got to have, if we're going to be progressive and have governmental empathy, that means that we need to understand that this is going to affect a lot of people. And the biggest thing that I think that this really bothers for me is, it really doesn't take into account the cost of living in certain areas.
Thank you.
And it's $100,000 is not $100,000 everywhere, if you know what I mean.
Nope.
Making $100,000 in Silicon Valley is not the same as making $100,000 living in West Virginia.
Right.
And rent and mortgage costs are tied into that. The cost of groceries is tied into that. The cost of basic services like electricity, cable, and water are tied into that. Garbage is tied into that. So I don't like the phase out. I'm not a huge fan of the idea that we need to phase to phase things out under 50,000, because I don't think that helps everybody. I think that 150,000 is the phase out for me, and it has to be a phase out, because you can't screw the people whose costs of living are so much higher than everybody else.
Right. And I'm unemployed through absolutely no fault of my own. I had to protect my child. My child cannot go to school safely right now. So that's my new job, being with my child.
Right.
And I said it on Twitter today, you guys, if you want to fly back over to my account anytime. This is a real story. So I got COVID back last year, right around this time, actually. But of course, no one could verify it because there weren't any tests. Thank you, Trump administration. But I was sick for months and people assumed that it had to have been COVID. My doctors are now on board with that as well. So first, my work at home hours were cut. Then my sick time expired. Then my personal leave expired. And then, and this is real, Ryan, I was let go. I was paid off to the sum of $2,000.
Wow.
so that I would not come back and sue. And I was barred from being reemployed for an entire calendar year, regardless of any symptoms or medical issues whatsoever.
That feels discriminatory.
Yeah, it kind of seems illegal, doesn't it?
It sure does. And if it's not, it should be.
Yeah, right. Well, this is the world that Mitch McConnell would like to have. And I am just so grateful that we've got Democrats who are finally standing up, putting their foot down and saying, no, Mitch. And they need to keep doing that because as I understand it, Ryan, I don't think Chuck has finalized everything with good old Mitch yet.
No, I don't think he has either. But look, I like what I'm hearing from Chuck Schumer the last couple of weeks. I don't know who AOC has been really pushing him, Elizabeth Warren. There's a whole list of reasons I'm sure why he's moved to the left primary. I can't put my finger on it though, Aaron. I have no idea why he might be pushing things to the left right now.
Yeah, when I saw him name Elizabeth Warren to the Finance Committee, all I said in my mind, but now everyone can hear it, I said, isn't it interesting when you don't win the presidency and yet everything that you ran on gets to be passed? That's awesome.
That's what happens when you have good ideas. And look, good ideas are going to win, right? Whether or not the person who has them wins, the good ideas are eventually going to win. And I just have to add a disclaimer here to our lovely listeners. If you hear me struggling a little bit, or if you hear some panting, I'm not out of breath. My dog is just very interested in playing with me tonight. He's just a little puppy, so he's he's struggling along with this a little bit. But yeah, I'm very happy to see she's on the finance committee. There's a lot of really good news there.
Heck yes. And she just came out swinging like the pro she is, introducing the wealth tax legislation on day one.
Right. I mean, what else? What more can you ask for with her? Right. She's consistent to the very end. It's a model of consistency. That's really what you want in your government, right? You want consistency.
Yep.
And you can't call her a hypocrite. Everything that she does lines up with everything that she's said for the last 2-3 years.
That's exactly right. I do appreciate her. I will always hold her accountable, just like I will anyone. But honestly, in this current moment, she's given me permission to have a crush. She's doing great. She's awesome.
Absolutely.
And just in case anybody is a little concerned, I want to go back to Duncan, who we talked to last week, Ryan, and we talked about how people are living paycheck to paycheck. And spoiler alert, it's 80% of the country, you guys.
Yep. I'm in that group. I'm definitely in that group.
And I'm in that group too. Just because my husband has a higher paying job doesn't mean we don't have a child who has needs, who has, bills that come along
cost
with him.
Of living, man. It's cost of living.
Right? And Illinois, shout out to Illinois. Illinois got rid of the SALT tax relief. So what that means is we get to pay even more in property taxes than we did before. Wow. And that is all thanks to the crooked local government that Illinois has had for many, many, many years. Pritzker is trying to clean it up, but boy, there's a mess there, Ryan.
This is very off topic, but I've always kind of thought that J.B. Pritzker looked like that actor Oliver Platt.
Right?
Like if they did a movie about the governors of the United States, Oliver Platt should play J.B. Pritzker.
Totally. And he's a great actor. We love him.
Right, absolutely. But you guys have a long-standing tradition of some corrupt politics in Illinois.
Yeah, hi, Blago.
I'm from Minnesota. We just elect old wrestlers.
Right. Or people who died? Isn't that something happened where a dead person won the election? It was
I don't know if they won the election. I know a dead person ran this year. I don't know anything about them winning. I'm sure that's out there somewhere though.
Oh, it was an interesting moment on Twitter. But getting back to business, I know it's so much fun to chit chat, and Ryan and I could do it all day. Let me tell you.
For sure.
We really need people to check out Duncan Sill's documentary, One Paycheck Away. And the website is onepaycheckawaymovie.com. We're going to be talking with Duncan again as the movie gets ready to be released. Due to COVID, of course, everything was waylaid the way that all movies are being waylaid right now. And Ryan, I don't know about you, but for me, the takeaway of the movie was a 2-part whammy. The first whammy was, of course, how many people are living like this, how Congress has passed the buck, quite literally and figuratively, year after year after year, and basically put us in a slow walk off a cliff, fiscally speaking. And the second takeaway for me was how many people don't realize the ugliness of wealth inequality in our country today. I mean, it is not okay right now.
Or even what kind of contributes to it. You know what I mean?
Right?
We talk about wealth inequality, and I think that this is part of where we run as progressives and Democrats. We kind of get into trouble a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's really hard to explain all of these things succinctly. And a complex problem to a lot of people is a problem that requires too many solutions, and it's just something we have to live with.
Mm-mm.
And I dare say that we could do better. And to be honest, the wealth issue isn't just a one-off thing. Like I said, it's a complex issue, but the wealth issue is solvable fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could institute all kinds of government programs that would help, not necessarily redistribute the wealth, but spread the wealth and spread the flow of wealth.
Exactly.
Especially in a consumer-driven economy. There's so many different things that we could do. So if you're listening to this and you're one of those people that, isn't really sure how exactly we can do that, I encourage you to first of all, read more about economics because it's very complicated. and there's a lot to it, and you should understand what you're talking about. But explore other theories, right? The things that we hear about all the time aren't necessarily the right things. They're just the things we've heard the most often.
Well, I've got to say, I'm on a 2-track course with Elizabeth Warren. I think that the wealth tax is a wonderful start because too many people for too long at the very tippy top have been hoarding and growing, and everybody else is suffering and shrinking. That's part one. And then, hi, doggy.
He's chewing on my sleeve. I'm just trying to keep him occupied. Sorry about the noise.
That's all right. And then part 2 for me, Ryan, is going to be making sure that the SEC has some teeth again because they're asleep at the wheel, y'all, let me say.
Right. Regulation is so important in these situations because a market unregulated is largely theft.
Yep.
And we saw that. We saw that this weekend with the GameStop controversy. That, if you leave these things unregulated, these kinds of things can happen. And when people figure out the game, that doesn't mean that it's a good game. Once you can figure out the rules that have been carefully tailored to one group of people, that doesn't mean it's a good game. That means that there need to be better rules.
Exactly.
And it should not have gotten to that point in the first place, but it did because there aren't any rules.
I'm so glad you brought GameStop up because it gives me the opportunity to say 2 pieces of fire here, okay?
Well, I'll let you take it away for just a second. Go ahead.
All right. Number 1. I am a little sick and tired of the left, and I'm going to just start calling them what they are. Okay, it's Putin's left. Now, I will back that up, I promise you. But this is the part of the Democratic wing that pretends it's progressive and attacks progressives, pretends that they are for progressive change and then attacks anyone who is fighting for progressive change, and pretends that they understand what America needs as far as change. And then they do something like vote for Donald Trump after saying that they were for progressive change all along. That's part 1. Putin's left, okay? They gotta go. And the reason that I bring them up right now, Ryan, is because you will not believe how many people attacked Elizabeth Warren and said that, are you ready for this? They said that she was on the side of hedge fund owners.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a really trendy thing to rag on these female politicians who actually know what they're talking about.
Right?
But if there's one person who wrote the book on Wall Street regulations, it's Elizabeth Warren.
Yep. Yep.
I'm pretty sure you could read any number of her books and hear references derogatory toward hedge funds and Wall Street and the big fat cats. How many stump speeches did she give where she talked about it's time for those guys to pay their fair share on a 2-cent wealth tax?
It's exactly right. She made them cry on TV, everybody. So yeah, no, she's not on their side. And then part 2, and this is very important because I don't think people understand this. I watched Chris Cuomo, okay? I watch everything, you guys. I don't just stay with, MSNBC and Rachel Maddow. I watch it all. Except Fox. I'm just not going to give them my time.
Well, that's not even news. We don't even need to talk about them.
Yeah, exactly. They're just a joke. So what I saw in Cuomo was the owner of the Robinhood app. Now, his name is Vlad, okay? Mm-hmm. He is friends with Jared Kushner.
Sure.
The Kushners invested in the Robinhood app. Nobody remembers that because, in this day and age, everyone just looks at the news for like 5 seconds and then the next thing happens.
I've been on Robinhood for years. I had no idea.
Yep. They are investors in the Robinhood app. So now Elizabeth Warren looks like the sly fox that she is because she has just called for an investigation. And you know what'll happen, Ryan.
Of course. Katie Porter will get to pull out her white. Oh, no, I'm sorry. She didn't get that waiver.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Right. I don't mean to change the subject. That's just sticking in my craw. But
I agree with you.
Elizabeth Warren's calling for an investigation she will have.
Yep. I've always noticed, wasn't it 17 that were opened in, the space of a day because she was asking for it?
That's correct. Yeah. But that's part of being an expert, right? She's not just a U.S. senator. She's a bona fide expert in this field.
That's right. That's right. So I couldn't be happier about the nomination that she moved to finance today. The other thing I wanted to touch on with you right before our little break, guys, is Ryan. We need to talk about people coming into my mentions. I'm not going to shout you out because that's not fair to you, and I'm not that person. People coming into my mentions saying, don't harass Joe Manchin. If you harass him, he'll never want to play nice with Democrats. Ryan, I'm going to tell you right now, the only reason that he finally capitulated is because people harassed him. Okay?
And look, I'm about as progressive as they get, right? I'm not leftist, but I'm close. And I understand why a lot of people are angry at Joe Manchin.
Yep.
But we need to remember, too, he's a West Virginia Democrat.
Yep.
Those are like unicorns. You just don't have them anymore. And one thing, and I was saying this on Twitter this week, and I kind of liked the move. I thought the communication could have been better. But sending Kamala Harris to West Virginia to kind of cover him from his left flank and let him continue to do what I'm about to make the point of, to let him continue to posture in the media as though he's a moderate Democrat so that he can protect himself in West Virginia, I think is really important. And it's nice to see that the administration's considering those things. That's some good party leadership. But absolutely we should keep pressuring him. Let the politicians play the politics. The public pressure is absolutely something we should be doing. That's our job as American citizens, is to continue to push our representatives to get better. And I'm not saying that we should primary Joe Manchin because, first of all, I don't think that anybody could beat Joe Manchin in West Virginia as a Democrat. And second of all, if he loses, that seat's gone for good. But at the end of the day, the only thing that we can really do is public pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And Ryan, I said it before. I'm going to say it again. And yes, listeners, it's probably ad nauseum at this point, but hey, it needs to be repeated. Hold your electeds accountable. That is your job. That is your job.
And in other states, I mean, obviously, West Virginia to me is a special case. I think that there's a lot we can do for West Virginia, and that's going to open up a huge trove of Democratic possibilities in West Virginia if we can help them with things like the Green New Deal and bringing jobs back and helping them with the heroin problem and then the opiate problem in West Virginia. There's a lot of things that we can do. Primarying Joe Manchin is not one of them. But if you're Kristen Sinema and you're sitting in Arizona where there's now a bona fide Democratic infrastructure, absolutely we could primary Kristen Sinema.
Bye, Kirsten.
Absolutely. And one thing that I heard this week, I don't know if it's true. I have not researched this. So if you're listening to this, take this with that grain of salt, that this is something that I heard. It is unverified. I am not presenting this as truth. And if I am wrong, please tag me at Sweet K Music and tell me I'm wrong because I want to know. I heard that Kirsten Sinema was a Green Party activist that ended up running as a Democrat, and now she's running interference on the filibuster for Mitch McConnell.
Yep.
Raises some red flags for me if that's true. Again, if that's true.
You know, Ryan, you need to talk to my good friend on Twitter, 10 Toads, okay? I will give you his handle. He has done extensive research on the Koch-backed elected leaders, and I'm sorry to tell you, Kirsten's in there.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yep.
I pride myself on being able to find words. That the disappointing is putting it mildly. This is the point where I think we get to a point here where I think that the tent gets a little too big for me.
Yes. Well, and this is why, you guys, and we get made fun of all the time, Ryan. We really do. This is why we vote for people who say, I am not taking a dime of PAC money. And everyone makes fun of us. Why are you so against PACs? This is why.
For me, it's not PACs. It's these super PACs. It's these corporate donors. It's the unlimited dark money.
Exactly.
And if you want to have a PAC where you're a citizen who's trying to garner money for a cause, Absolutely, that needs to be available to you because that's how we enact democracy in this country. Is people do things on an individual and then a collective level. But a corporation funding and billionaires funding at unlimited levels, politicians and the groups of politicians that they're funding at unlimited levels creates an accountability problem. And it creates an accountability problem for the politicians, but it also creates an accountability problem for the money, right? We don't know where that money was made.
Absolutely. And I am so glad that you brought up my favorite topic, which is dark money, because right after this short break, Ryan, I've got some interesting news to share with you.
I'm excited.
Most of you know me from this video with Connie.
So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm going to talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee.
But I'm going to talk about Louisiana today. The people of Baton Rouge know me for fighting for health care access in North Baton Rouge, helping change the name of Lee High School to Liberty High, fighting to keep the zoo in North Baton Rouge, and a $300 million investment coming to a divested community. Because change doesn't just happen. We fight to make change happen. Most of your run-of-the-mill politicians, career politicians, will tell you we're doing a great job. But the truth is, we understand that they haven't been taking care of the health, welfare, and the safety of our community. The numbers don't lie. Folks that grew up on streets like this, on Oreo, like me and my complex family story. My mother committed suicide when I was 2 months old, and my father struggled with alcoholism. So my village stepped in, and my aunt and uncle became my mother and father. And communities like Oreo Street and all over this country understand that our fight for change requires that we come together the same way my family did to help bring me forth. We've got to bring our state forward. So our children have a state that they can live in, thrive in, and prosper in instead of leaving for what they see as greener pastures. We've got to fight for clean air and green jobs because we understand with the closure of Shell in Convent and the hundreds of jobs that we're losing, if we marry our state to one industry, we are married to their prosperity or their demise. And the future of jobs for our children requires that we look at the Green New Deal. This global pandemic that has shown us the inequities that exist in our healthcare system means that we have to fight for Medicare for all, to give every American a fair shot when they get sick. The truth is, profit should not be the determining factor of the quality of care you get when you go see a physician. It should be about health care and serving people. You have inspired me to jump into this race, to go and fight in Washington for change for all people. I am unapologetic in my positions and unafraid to speak truth to power. It's what I know how to do best, and it's what we need in DC. What I'm asking you to do is take this journey with me, from East Baton Rouge to West Baton Rouge, to Iberville, Ascension, Assumption, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Charles, Jefferson, and Orleans, through all of Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District. We deserve a fighting chance for our children to live out their wildest dreams right here in this state. But we can't be satisfied with being dead last, and we can't elect career politicians if we want change to happen. If you vote the way you've always voted, you'll get what you always got, and we'll end up where we've always been, at the bottom of the map. And what I'm asking you to do is take a walk with me on this journey for change, and let's go make equity, justice, and progress for all people a priority in Washington, D.C. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for Congress. I need your support, I need your prayers, I need you to volunteer and organize, because if we strategize, organize, and mobilize, we're gonna win this thing, y'all. Do good, seek justice. I'll see you at work.
Oh, I cannot wait for Gary Chambers Jr. to get elected in Louisiana. Can you, Ryan? I mean, he is for big change, and that is what we need, right?
Absolutely, across the board. I mean, this is one of the reasons that you elect progressives, right? Is to try and fight for that change, and this is as close to an endorsement as we're going to get, is to run these ads and to say this guy's good and we need to elect him. So, yeah, absolutely. We don't endorse candidates on the podcast explicitly, but know that it's important that we win as many races for Democrats as possible.
Absolutely. And Ryan, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the other thing that we do not do on the podcast is take money. We are completely nonprofit. There is absolutely no connection between us and the candidacy other than I like what he has to say. Okay. And Louisiana.
We're a no income podcast.
That's right. Louisiana is looking for that big change. And he is what Cori Bush, one of my favorite quotes from Miss Cori Bush, you have to be close to the pain. Yeah. And he is. Absolutely. Is. Yes. So, Ryan, before we went on our little break and heard that amazing talk from Gary Chambers Jr., we were just on the edge of one of my favorite topics, which is dark money. Why is it my favorite? Because, as you said, it permeates it all. It permeates everything. And, Ryan, are you ready for this?
I am.
We are looking, and we're still in the discussion, so I can't give you dates just yet, but we are looking at doing a docu-series on our podcast with one of my favorite researchers, and she is going to explain to us, how we got here, how it's bad, why it's so bad, how dangerous it truly is for our democracy, and what we need to do now.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds awesome.
Right? and I'm telling you, it goes back decades. We're going to, just to give you guys a little bit of a teaser, we're going to talk about the family. We're going to talk about the Reagans. We're going to talk about the Saudis and Bush. It's all coming in. There's nothing that's being left out.
That's good. I mean, these are all topics that need to get touched on. Look, the American left was dead for about 40 years. We've got a lot of stuff to work on here. Right? There's a lot of things we got to get done, and part of that is going back and through a progressive lens, analyzing a lot of these things that have happened.
Yes,
we don't learn from these things if we don't know about them. So any kind of progressive history lesson is a good one, in my opinion.
Well, and Ryan, I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but for our next episode, I really want you to tell me where the heck the FDR people went, because we had such power, we had such wonderful change, and then just like you said, it just vanished. Like, what happened? It's not my time, so I don't know what happened.
So this is really interesting, and I can do it really quickly. The FDR Democrats largely became Republicans.
Oh no! Don't tell me that.
And it has a lot to do with Nixon and the Southern strategy and the Southern Democrats that dominated the early 20th century largely became the Republican Party, and they kind of abandoned it. However, it was a lot of the black voters became Democrats after that because they had primarily been Republicans in the South. And then, there's all sorts of other issues there. But you look back at the New Deal. The New Deal was, in its time, was very good, but looking back, the legacy is still quite racist, and there's a lot of issues there within it as far as equity and making sure that everybody was able to get on the same economic platform. But the long story short is that the Southern FDR Democrats and the New Deal Democrats kind of faded away, and the other ones became Republicans.
Wow.
And Reagan changed everything. He flipped everything on its head. So,
oh, yeah. We just love him, don't we?
He even changed the game for Democrats, right?
Yeah.
You look at the Democrats of the last 40 years, and they are completely different than the Democrats even of Reagan's time. There's not the proposition of big bold change from a lot of these old guard people, and we even consider them old guard. They've been in here for 50 years.
Yep.
Since the time of Reagan, those people calculated, and they had to get stronger on crime, stronger on drugs. The religious argument really came back into politics. There was the change in the Democratic Party. There were really two changes. It was the flip with the Southern strategy with Nixon, and the white Democrats became Republicans. And the Reagan Democrats really changed the party. We started chasing more conservative people. That's where you get your Joe Manchins of the world. And it's just the fact of the matter. And this is politics, right? Like you've got to take care of your base, and the Democrats didn't know who their base was for a long time.
And I hear your history, and I appreciate your history, and I'm going to raise you gridlock, because that's what that all led to. Just nobody getting anything done because everybody was trying to toe the line, right? I mean,
and that actually, from my understanding, and again, if I'm wrong, I expect to see it in my mentions when this is posted. So if you hit me at Sweet K Music and tell me I'm wrong, I will own up to it. But as far as I know, this sort of gridlock thing really didn't start until the 90s, where Newt Gingrich in 94 made the contract with America, and suddenly we were off to the races on this paleo-conservatism and nationalism in the Republican Party. That really took hold with the religious right in 94.
Hey, Ryan, I want you to pause for a second, because you guys, did you hear the name that he dropped? Newt Gingrich. And he is still slithering into the problems of today, isn't he?
Always. I mean, look, I don't know what these Republicans are drinking, but they just don't die. They don't go away.
Yes.
They don't fade into the ether like you would expect these ghouls to do. Every Republican, I feel like, has been around since 1987.
Yes! The Roger Stone of yesteryear is the Roger Stone of today. He's still a criminal ass.
Right. We talk about the second coming of Reagan. Reagan never left.
Right.
I'm convinced Reagan's still around here somewhere, shambling around, talking about, you can't give rights to the gays. Like, there's so many problems within the Republican Party that are tied directly back to that time period.
Yes.
And it's largely because those people are still party leadership. We talk about the Democrats having party leadership issues. The Republicans are worse.
I know. Well, and so here's what I see, just looking in from the outside, Ryan. I see that big money is a huge issue with both parties, not just the Republicans. I'm sorry, guys, we're going to break some hearts out there, but even some of your favorites.
Come on. Look. If you're sitting here as a Democrat thinking that we don't have a big money problem, I'd like to introduce you to reality.
Right? If you do the legwork, you guys, you might have some tears in your coffee. Let me just warn you, because we are not clean. It is not pure. And this is one of the reasons that the progressive left is getting louder. And Ryan, I couldn't be happier about that.
Me either. I'm super excited. This is going to be great. Look, we are in for what I honestly believe is a progressive renaissance.
Yes.
and we talk about an army of progressives. Look, an army is here to fight, and fighting's good, but we're going to create some art with some policy here.
I love
15, 20 years.
Exactly.
Right? We're gonna pass all kinds of bills that are so good for the American people, and it starts in this administration. And you look at the first month. We're not even through the first month of the Biden presidency, and already you start to get the sense that something big is building. And I know we're all impatient and we want Biden to do all of these things right away, but it's coming. You know, Elizabeth Warren's on the Finance Committee. Chuck Schumer's talking as though he's running for president in 2024 and he's running on a progressive platform. You know, you have all of these people that are saying accountability before unity, these high-ranking Democrats. This is what we've been waiting for. I mean, how long have we been waiting for this? This is exactly what we hoped it would be. Because if we're going to have a really good, a really strong movement, we need to be able to call out our own part. We need to. We need to be able to say that Dianne Feinstein's husband selling stock when she's in power, that's wrong. We should be able to say that Katie Porter needs to be able to be on that the Financial Services Committee, even if she's got beef with Maxine Waters. And it's not a diss of Maxine Waters. I understand there's a process, but she's a bona fide expert and she needs to be there. We need to be able to say that it's time for some people to retire because this isn't good enough anymore. That some people need to step away, and not even need to step away right now, but we need to be able to build new leadership.
it's going to be wonderful to get all of this big, bold change put into action. And one of the things that I was going to make sure that everybody heard is that is the way we win, okay? People in all kinds of races in Georgia, the reason we won, it wasn't by putting out timid policies and nibbling around the edges, as our favorite Elizabeth Warren likes to say. We went bold in Georgia. That was progressive action that people voted for in Georgia. That is why we got Senators Ossoff and Warnock into the Georgia win and into the Senate seat. So it is going to be important to pass those progressive policies. And I saw someone say this on Twitter, Ryan, and I was so like over the moon. They said Joe Biden is so far a progressive president, and I couldn't be happier. And you know what? I feel the same way. Go Joe!
Absolutely. And right now, I mean, it's, you know, you heard the ad in this program. You know that there's an election coming. You know that there's 2022 right around the corner. Now is not the time to take a breath.
Exactly.
It's not. Start reaching out to local Democrat groups. Start organizing plans. Start coming up with who's going to host events. Start figuring out, you know, who's going to watch the kids during events and making arrangements for who's going to help with what. This is the time to really lay the foundation of really intense organizing so that we can come into 2022 and have a game plan, have a foundation for action on that game plan, and then be able to execute that game plan because we need a deeper bench than we have. And this is the only way that we can do it.
Exactly. And I just want to harken back to something that was said after Miss Stacey Abrams, who, yes, absolutely should get the Nobel Prize. She said there is a me in every single state in this country. And what they need is not to clone me. What they need is to have funds, and you need to fund them. So you guys reach out to your local chapters of Warren Democrats. They're all over Twitter. They're very easy to find, and see who it is that needs the funds and put your money there, okay? Because these top level donations, Ryan, I don't think they know what to do with the money.
No, I certainly don't. But it's just one more reason for campaign finance reform. But sure. I mean, look, the more money that small donors flood them with, the more money that they have to actually use that we're not going to try and take away. Because I don't know if you know this or not, Democrats are the ones that have the advantage on small dollar donations, and not just any Democrats, progressive Democrats.
Absolutely. If we're going to join that army of progressives every day, make it bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm excited, Ryan. We have our marching orders, and
we sure do.
I'm ready to go. How about you?
I'm always ready to go.
All right, let's go ahead and celebrate all of the good news that we had today and keep it moving forward, guys.